Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes of the previous meeting? So I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Financial reports in there, you got any questions for Ian, or has Ian got anything for us?
Well, let's see.
Is everybody up to date?
It's been a while since we had a financial report, so you'll notice that this one is a bit more extensive than it has been, but...
Everybody's up to date on payments and...
Well, actually, the crop science investigation, they are late on their loan payment. They've had some legal issues, I guess. We met with them, when was that?
January.
Early January, and they explained some of the situation, but I did reach out for them for an update from them last week, but still late on that payment. Yep.
The legal issue makes their payment late. How?
Let's see.
They haven't been able to access
Right,
the property.
they're having issues being able to access their property.
Oh,
They're not able to actually get in there and start making changes.
are they going to be making money this month? If they can get in there.
I think they discussed asking for deferral until they could actually access the property. I think that's what, you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so at our meeting, we did discuss the possibility of doing a forbearance, and that was part of the follow-up that I had sent last week, asking if they wanted to move forward with that, but I didn't receive a response on that point, so...
Okay.
We've already dispersed the funds, correct?
Correct.
I would like to see a follow-up by the next meeting, so we have an answer
Yes.
at the next meeting as far as their plan. I mean, if they can't access the property and the project's not gonna go through, they could refund the money and just be done. Because if they can't access the property, they don't have use for the funds yet.
Right.
So, they can
I
either-
agree.
And not to be a jerk about it, but they can either start making a payment or return the funds if they can't, and then we'll redisperse them once they get their legal issues figured out.
Okay.
So, that would be my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's-
Yeah,
agree.
So-
I think we kind of jumped...
Yeah, we
over.
don't wanna set a precedent that we just disperse the funds and just kinda, oh, well, until we get to it. It's, I mean, if they can't access it, they can't really do the project, they don't need the funds.
Up next is the coordinators. Oh, sorry. Get a motion to approve the financial report?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Now the coordinators report. Sorry about that.
Okay.
That's okay. Okay, so last month or so, a couple of things. Chaotic Good and Tammy's both got their facade improvement reimbursements, $2,000 each for their new signage. Let's see, February 28th, I went to the soft opening at Tammy's place. It was very, very good. They opened up officially on March 1st, so if you haven't made it there yet, I would recommend it. Let's see. Last week on Friday, I went to a meeting for the proposed Dodge County Regional Park. They unveiled a new, their final proposal for an environmental learning center. So that'll be exciting if it actually goes through, but it'll be a few more years at least before anything more happens there. Just coming up here in March this week, we've got a few events going on. There's St. Patty's Day happening this Saturday, very exciting. Lots of businesses in town are participating in that. And then the Chamber is having ribbon cuttings for 3 different businesses here in town. Let's see. Tammy's Place is on Friday, Chaotic Good is on Saturday, and then Creative Stars Academy, which is the new daycare at Plaza 57, that'll be on Monday next week. No business spotlight for this month. Hopefully we'll get one for next month. The Rethos downtown assessment, they came back on January 11th. I believe I included the downtown assessment on the packet that I sent out last month, but I also included it in this month too, just so if anyone had any questions, we could talk about it if necessary. But they did include some pretty good information there, I thought. A couple of the opportunities that they talked about doing a parking survey downtown. So Tim and I have talked about it a bit, and we think that would be a good project for me to do later this summer, just to see what the parking numbers look like, and just so we have some good data on that, and then go from there. That was probably the biggest takeaway, I would say. Let's see, and later on we'll be talking about the priorities that we set for 2023, as well as some updates that we've been making to the CAS and comp plan.
Okay, thank you. City Administrator's report.
I've got my report there, I don't have anything, okay. We're doing our audit today, so hopefully we'll have the year-end financials. We can provide that for the EDA to see kind of how it performed from last year.
Thank you. Then we will go right to our EDA priorities for 2023.
Yep, so 3 priorities there. I know we've talked about them before, but I kind of reworded them a bit since the last time we talked about them, just so they're a bit more clear with everything. I can go through them, I guess. So, goal number 1, support businesses through the Highway 57 project. We talked about sharing contact info between the construction workers when they come, and then the CAS and restaurants here in town that they could go to during their lunch break. And we also talked about improving signage, just to let people know that our businesses are still open during the impacts and everything. Number 2, expand multifamily housing options and promote a greater diversity of housing types. I think I'd like to research more of the housing needs, and then one suggestion that we had from Tom, I think, was to look at updating our housing study. The last one was done in 2019, so we have some more data since then, so it might be a good idea to take a look at updating that. And then another thing was to issue a request for proposal if we wanted to look at developing our EDA land in Southwest Casson. And then number 3, we have create a plan for downtown and the EDA lots. I think that'll go hand in hand with this parking survey that we talked about. Just look at some options for ways that we can improve it, I guess. Any questions?
Anything else anybody has?
On the researching the housing needs and consider updating the housing study, would it be wise to, I mean, we'll get some really good data come June when Hamilton starts renting their new 50 units there.
Mm-hmm.
If the demand is strong and they fill up within a month, you know, I mean, we'll get some data that says, hey, we have a strong demand for more housing. If they struggle all summer to get that full, and we have Sands building theirs coming fall or next spring. So before I would, you know, if we were going to spend some cash or money on a housing study, we may have, as far as the multifamily, we've kind of got our own study built right here in town.
I think conceptually, you know, the last time Dodge County kind of backstopped it, and our encouragement was maybe to have them pay for
Redo
an
the study.
update.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know that they would necessarily have to update the whole thing. Realistically, I don't think western half of the county has probably changed dramatically. But with COVID and the changes in the housing market, we've seen, that was one of the reasons. I mean, it's 5 years old, 4 years old. So we were thinking that maybe we would contact Dodge County and see if they wanted to do an update, instead of redoing and paying for a brand new one.
Right.
I think it would just make sense to maybe update the eastern half of the county and see if that's something they were interested in doing. So.
Okay.
But, I mean, you're right, obviously, the market tells how things are going too a little bit. And, you know, we'll track the single-family market. We expect it to be slow this year with the interest rates, you know, peaking, so.
Who's funding the housing improvement loans for older homes that's in Casson?
Those are MIF dollars that were transferred over to SEMCRA.
Okay. So how long does that program?
I think they actually just wanted an extra year, didn't they?
Yeah,
Saw an email from him. I think
they
they're looking for 24, like October of 24, I think is what it was.
Extended it through 24.
Okay.
Yep.
We have a neighbor who got information on the program, which she's probably going to take advantage of, which sounds
Well, it's a good program, because
Really?
there's a big component that's forgivable, as long as you stay in your home over a period of time.
Yeah, I think
So-
it's 10 years, isn't it? Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, it'd be awesome if you did, and those funds are there, and you have to live in that certain corridor and meet certain criteria, but boy, if she met the criteria and wanted to do that, that'd be a great way to get the property
I think
improved.
total, we've had over 25 properties in Cass and take advantage of the funds that the city provided to Semcra to use, so.
this last one, or, I know there were some years ago.
I think those are the pending ones, those are the ones that I'm familiar with from the last
Okay.
3 or 4 years overall, yeah. Anything else anyone has for priorities at all? So, because some of these, I mean, obviously, the Highway 57 one, that's a pending one, but that one, I mean,
Should be an easy.
hopefully it's done by July 15th, you know.
I would prioritize out of all of that, after the construction's done on the roundabouts, when we know the parking situation closer to the stoplight there,
Sure.
the parking study.
Yes.
Because we have a great problem happening last week in downtown Casson. There were times when there was no parking on Main Street whatsoever.
And hardly
I even
any
went-
behind the American Legion either.
Yeah, and I went and took some pictures. It was kind of impressive, you know. And then Tammy's place was opening. They had a line of people waiting. It was great. The dance studio had people in it. Everybody down the other block.
That's what we wanted.
Was open. So, I mean, I had a
Taxis,
customer come in and
people are coming in to
there's
get their
zero
taxes.
parking. I said, awesome, you know. They're like,
No, I mean, that's
but
something
it's a
that,
re-education process too, that it's okay to walk a block in Casson. It doesn't, it's not gonna kill us to walk a block or two. So, the parking study, I think, after that construction's done, we'll know our parking numbers. And then I've seen some pretty close calls because it is full.
Yes.
You just can't see when you come out on any of those corners. You gotta get all the way out, and then you're blocking people that are trying to walk across the road, because you should stay behind the crosswalk area, but you have no prayer of seeing anything if you do. So I think making that kind of leapfrog to the top, once that construction's done, that, figure it out.
And people are doing 35.
And I saw a semi-truck go down this morning with no trailer, but just the tractor, and he was hauling.
See, I'm usually the guy that drives really slow and makes because I don't know if anybody's gonna pull out or back out or walk out, so.
Yeah, it's
I'm the guy that
awful to try to get
creates the
across
flow.
there.
it doesn't take much in the wintertime too, because it's sometimes icy.
I see, and
So it's a great problem. We can look at it, come up with some solutions, but it's a great problem to have, because
Yes.
it wasn't 5-6 years ago, there wasn't much going on down there.
right.
I will say Hy-Vee, I know, is encouraging their employees to park up by the old school,
Yeah.
which is good, because that leaves, you know, our downtown
Well,
more
that's
spaces.
one lot that's kind of a mess, you know, like, when they relined it, they left half of the old lines there, so now you see
Oh, you're
people
talking about
parking-
Hy-Vee's parking
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, you see people
Oh, that's a
parking in-
free-for-all, you just get in there and park where you
Yeah,
want, and get out of your
parking in the
car.
driving lane, and it's like, oh boy, here we
But
go, you know.
also in the winter, people, it's a free-for-all parking, because they
Yeah,
can't see. They
'cause they have snow and ice on it, so then there's, yeah, my car fits here.
I'm doing it, yeah.
Well, and another dynamic on Main Street I've just seen the last couple of days is, because of the different businesses we have on Main Street now, delivery vehicles, big trucks,
Oh.
parked right on Main Street.
Sure.
Well, it's double yellow, that doesn't stop people from
Yeah, what is
parking on
that?
the other side of the road either, but getting around and backing up traffic when it's,
It's difficult, it's a concern for sure.
that's a change too that I haven't
That we didn't
seen
have
in
before,
years
yeah.
past, yeah.
Didn't we used to have no truck parking on Main Street? I never could
Yeah,
quite comprehend what was a truck.
I think it still says that, I think.
But I mean, they're
Could be wrong,
parking
but-
right in the
But
lane
they're
of
parking in the
traffic,
lane,
so-
because they can't get next to the business.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then they unload and then go, and, you know.
And that's,
Maybe they think they're just stopping.
and a part of that, I mean, just from experience at the Variety Store, when what's their names come deliver from Missouri, we have a door in the back alley, they can get in the back alley, they don't like to, but they park right on Main Street, put their flashers on, and then unload for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's like,
Yeah.
It's convenient for them.
I'd rather have it in the back door anyway, but a lot of it's education of the delivery people, that they can't just stop quick and go now, it's a little busier than it was, but.
And part of that is if it's gonna come down to police enforcing, if they see it, to remind them they can't do it. You know, that's something we can bring to their attention, that it's becoming a problem. Because it will be a safety hazard too.
Have you actually ever seen a police person talk to somebody on Main Street about anything?
Yeah, I have.
All those years I've been there, I've never seen a cop pull somebody over.
Oh, I've had it twice this year.
You personally?
No.
Well, that's what it sounded like.
That was last year, not, 23's a new slate, I don't get started, I don't keep track.
No, I have too.
I did it a couple times, and then we've had a couple that we had to call because there were issues, but, yeah, I've seen it a couple times. It's just a matter of them being at the, it's like everywhere else around town, they gotta be at the right place at the right time.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, the parking study.
Well, I think
I
parking
agree.
is gonna be a priority for sure, because you're right, you know, with some of the changes, and I know, looking through the Rethos, you know, we've talked about that city-owned property behind the Legion. You know, that's a property that, you know, if it was paved, you know, we could line it, which would then probably be more efficient, because right now people just kind of park, and, you know, that's never gonna be quite as efficient. At the same time, you run into that cost benefit of, you know, and I'm a member of the Legion, but who's gonna benefit the most? Well, they are. Are they gonna wanna pay for any of it? Probably
Probably
not.
not.
But if they're filling that lot up, even though it's a city
Well, then they're
lot,
not
then
blocking
everybody
the
else
street.
is, you know, so, but I think, you know, that's definitely one of our top things, is seeing how it works, because yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's really awesome to see a downtown that's hopping, you know.
And
Well, also with Rochester going to the 25 miles per hour in their big city, why couldn't we?
Well, there's that, and there's also other traffic calming measures that we may be looking at. I know the council's gonna be discussing it at their work session in a couple weeks here, talking about doing some sort of, model bump outs, because that will, you know, it'll slow people down, because it'll restrict the size of the lanes a little bit. And you see that in a lot of communities where they do that, where they try to slow it down. So, I mean, the big issue is, can somebody even cross the street? You know, if you're
Yeah.
trying to cross, you wanna try and slow people down, because it doesn't take much to hit somebody, and
Yeah,
that was a big concern people talked about.
But I will say, when they redid Main Street and they made the north side wider, that has not helped.
Yeah.
Because you've got less for cars to be driving by and less for people to be able to see.
Sure.
So,
Well, and everybody nowadays has bigger vehicles. It
yeah,
seems
that's
like.
true,
That's a big
yeah.
part of it.
And they're sticking out, and then when you try to back out, you're, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Well,
When are they doing the roundabouts downtown? I mean, when is that starting?
Whenever they can start
I think road restrictions are supposed to come off in middle April, and hopefully, I'm hoping that they're here by May 1, but depends a lot on the weather, so.
right, it's all,
I think they're gonna do 34 first, but they may end up having both of them closed at the same time for at least part of it. They probably will. But I'd like to get
You'd
34
think they
done,
would.
because if we get 34 done, then that'll help with traffic, because then you can still go through that intersection and go up to the north, instead of, you know, the Main Street one is not gonna, it's gonna impact the businesses, but it's not gonna impact traffic as much.
Right.
But, yeah, so I think that's the goal, and I know that, the one up on the north side, you know, we're hoping that the same bidder bids that one, but who knows, so.
I do know the railroad things were down a couple of weeks ago for a good 40 minutes. It was chaos down there. And that was not at 4:30 in the afternoon.
No, it was, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, they were still down
It
at
was-
4:30 in the afternoon.
it was
They were
crazy.
down when I left work at 5, but,
But they had gone down at 2:30.
yeah, well,
They
then it
were
was
down
a
for
couple
a
hours. They were down.
long time, yeah.
Yeah. It's just practice for May, I guess, I don't know.
anytime you have electronics and technology,
Yeah.
you have issues. I mean, so.
Okay.
So, I think we got a
Good idea on that.
good idea of what to go with there for, so,
Thanks, Ian.
yes. So next, we'll talk about updates to the Casson Comprehensive Plan.
Gonna wake it up.
I thought we were just gonna look at horses.
So, this was something that, has been working on for the past couple of months now, but, yeah, it's just a good time to update our comp plan, seeing as it was first established, how long has it been now, 5 years ago? More than that even, but, things have changed quite a bit since then, and so it's good to have these new updates to inform things that happen here. Let's see. Oh my gosh.
There you go, you got her. Just scroll through it.
Oh, scrolling. Oh, it's very touchy. Okay, Let's see. Quite a lot of growth here in Casson, as you know. A lot of them are young families. The largest groups are adults in their 30s and kids under 5. So if we think about in the future, in 10 to 15 years, those kids will be, in high school. So what kind of jobs do high school kids need at that point? That's what we could be planning for at some point. Let's see. And also the senior age population is growing. So that means more healthcare options, active senior living, and more senior housing options as well. We'll go through more of this stuff further in the presentation, but COVID happened, and that impacted a lot of things, as we know. So we'll see some of those impacts here in the data. So let's see. Historic population goes back to, can you read it? 1970.
1970, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty dramatic growth. And now we're here in 2020, and we're almost at 7,000 people, compared to other cities in the area that are somewhat similar size. Casson is right up there. Let's see. And now we think about in the 2040 here, projection is, let's see.
8544.
8544, that's right. So that's another 1,500 people we gotta think about planning for.
In 20 years.
Yeah. And as you can see here, this is just an age distribution, like I was saying before. Lots of under 5s, and then young adults and seniors. And that's compared to the rest of Dodge County and state of Minnesota.
You can see the difference there if you go back to that one. Obviously, the rest of Dodge County, I mean, you've got a much older population demographic. It skews a lot older with fewer families. So it kind of, Casson's a little bit different from the rest of the county in that way, but.
Yeah, so the average size of a household here in Casson is 2.74, and the average family size is 3.17. So if you think about that, that's pretty significant, because that's also including, singles and couples that don't have kids, but also pretty large families. So that's what we look like. And income, let's see. Compared to Minnesota as a whole, Casson incomes are much higher, more in line with Dodge County as a whole, but these graphs are a little bit skewed. But yeah, you can see the difference there. Let's see. Yeah, lots of higher. Education, very well educated here in Casson. Okay, so this is pretty interesting here. So this is people who live within a 20-minute drive from the downtown, I guess. So there's 43,000 people who live within that area. So you can see between 2010 and 2020. The growth was 62% in that area, but in the next, until 2027, the growth rate is pretty much, much lower. And yeah, let's see, travel time, most people are driving to work by themselves, of course. Pretty low numbers for people who walk or other forms of transportation. This one's interesting too. So most people who live in Casson are commuting elsewhere to work, as we know. So it's almost 3,000 people who are leaving Casson every day to go somewhere else. And then we've got 840 people who live outside of Casson but come here to work, and then 366 that both live and work here in Casson. And industry, pretty overwhelmingly, largest one is healthcare. Not a big surprise there with all the medical industry in Rochester, but pretty interesting to know. Let's see. Top employers, CAM Public Schools, of course, and then it says Erdman's, but now it's Hy-Vee, of course. Pretty big employers, and then also the Mayo Clinic here in town, big employers, and of course the city of Casson.
Shop, go hometown.
Housing. Most homes, of course, are going to be the single-family, one-unit detached houses. So as we know, we're planning for more multi-family housing. So we'll have more options available, hopefully in the future. Let's see. This one is owner-occupied versus renters, so it's about 80-20 between owners and renters. 2.4% of housing units are vacant.
And that's one of the reasons I think we're seeing that drive on the multifamily, especially because, from what I've seen, 5% is what most people consider to be relatively healthy, so we're probably short units really in terms of residential, so.
Cost burden household, so that's people who are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So it's pretty high. Let's see, 2020 is the darker color, so it's about 24.6% of renters are paying more than 30% of their income on housing, and then compared to 24.4% of people with mortgages are spending more than 30% on their housing. Oh boy. Housing costs. Let's see. So hard to read.
You can zoom and make it bigger if you want to. Otherwise, I think people get the idea.
Yeah, you get the idea. Let's see. Oh, and then these were just some other things that were thrown in there. Just describes like similar types of communities and traits that they have, but housing permits are down last year compared to the year before, and we think that's a trend that's going to continue into this year as well. Let's see. The years that they were built goes all the way back to pretty far ways back, but
1930.
1930. Wow, you must have better eyesight than I do. Yeah, let's see the types. More mobile homes in the last 20 years or so. That's what I see.
Go back to that one.
This one?
Yeah, and just, so breakdown of basically what we're looking at in the inventory pipeline. We've got about 100, a little less than 110 now, so when we wrote this, vacant lots, and a lot of those are actually in common acres, so they're kind of an unusual lot, they're bigger lots, so the market there is a little different. But, so, you could probably cut that in half for in terms of the actual supply of regular housing lots. We do think that there's some other potential subdivisions that are scheduled, Engelstadt, South Point, those are both ones we've seen preliminary plans for. The Shooty property is going to be interesting how that develops, and then we've got some commercial lots available too. So the Vale Apartments, as the mayor mentioned, is that's hopefully lessing in June, I think June or July. Hopefully that'll fill up quick, and then we know that the sand company has gotten awarded by the state of Minnesota a pretty substantial amount of money, and they're working with planning to try and get a spot for their lot and get it figured out. So they'll hopefully start construction in spring of 24 or very late 23. So it's interesting to see kind of, and we're tracking now, and part of the reason we're doing this is because, we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community in terms of land use. That's kind of what the EDA does is, what's commercial, what needs to be commercial, what doesn't need to be commercial, what needs to be industrial. Planning and zoning is working on that as well. So that's some of the things that, Ian wanted some feedback on, and you all live in the community or work in the community, and you see different things. So just, for example, parking on Main Street, that's an issue. We maybe wouldn't have thought we would have had 5 years ago, and now we do. We try to see what things are coming up before they kind of get to us. So that's kind of what Ian's gonna work on. He's gonna keep fine tuning this, presentation and the data too, so. Any questions anybody has on that?
All right. Good.
As a board, are we going to be able to go tour the new apartments like we did in Byron?
Yeah, if you're interested, I think they emailed us out that information actually, so they're ready to be toured now. You know, if you wanna go now before they're finished, or if you wanna go once they're finished, they're glad to have us in there, so.
I knew, I had seen that as individuals and whatever, but is the board, this EDA board
Well, would
going
the
to?
board like to? I mean, we could certainly meet out there and do it as part of one of our meetings possibly.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to.
We did that in Byron.
Right, I
Really?
mean, that would make
Yeah,
sense.
we did.
It would make sense to go and see it, I don't know. How, you thinking once it's done, or do you wanna do it before it's finished?
Would you maybe wanna do it in May, just before people start moving
You
in?
want it warmed up?
Yeah,
And it's a
just
little warmer.
before it's
Just before it's
occupied, and
occupied.
yet
We're
it's
talking
pretty
June.
much all,
Should be pretty well
tidied up
finished
and-
Yeah,
Cool.
okay. Well, why don't you get a hold of, the folks from Hamilton and let them know that we'll maybe look at the May EDA meeting. We'll just meet over there and we'll probably have a short agenda, so we'll just try and plan on just mostly doing the tour,
Yeah.
okay,
okay?
Cool.
yeah,
Because I'd be interested to see in there. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's big, it's a big building, you can see it
Mhm.
really, you know, it's kind of funny, somebody was coming from Rochester yesterday, and they told me, they said, you know, that for the first time they could see the new water tower, you know, it pops up and it's big, and then they kept going, because they were going to Owatonna, and they saw the apartment complex on the way out, you know, of town, and it kind of pops too, so it's interesting to see how that's going. That's only a 50 unit complex, you know, whereas I know in, like Rochester, they're looking at that old YMCA, they're gonna
It's a
put like
couple hundred.
There's like a 300 unit complex they
Yeah.
wanna pop on there. I was like, if that's 50 units and that's that big, I don't even know, that's a lot of units to be bringing to the
Well,
market.
you just think of all the bodies, and the cars, and the
Right.
kids, and the,
Right, that's a lot. So it's gonna be exciting to see that come to fruition, so. But yeah, why don't we plan on the May meeting, that'll be a good idea.
Yep.
Good suggestion. Any other questions on the presentation? Otherwise, thanks very much for working on that, Ian, I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to other business. Has anybody got anything else? No? Okay. Items for April, we got, hopefully get an answer back from crop science.
That's right. All right.
Get any other ideas, you can contact Ian with them. Other than that, then I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, everybody.
thank you.